couldn't bring myself to ring the last doorbell of the day. The letters on the nameplate were illuminated from behind and burned into my retinas. White. This was it. There weren't any other available apartments near campus. If I couldn't move in here next week, I'd be out on the street. Everything else seemed to be booked out for the start of the school year. I needed this place. I didn't even care that I'd be rooming with a guy, because if I didn't get this place, I'd have to find a park bench for the start of the semester or make a cozy little home in my car. Whatever happened, no way was I going back to Lincoln, Nebraska. Never. I was starting over here, whatever the cost. And if I had to spend a few nights in the open air, so be it. Anything but Nebraska. I pressed the doorbell and waited, inhaling the warm evening air. I hardly noticed the pressure rising in my chest. 1, 2, 3, inhale, exhale, breathe. I counted to myself and squeezed my eyes shut. Finally, the buzzer sounded to let me in. I took another breath before pushing the door open. Mr. White, I didn't know his first name at that point, had mentioned in his email that the apartment was on the 2nd floor, left. As I set foot on the stairs, I heard a door open upstairs and then the sound of muffled voices. "You've got my number," a female voice purred. Someone cleared his throat. "You know that I—" "Nothing serious. I get it. You made that perfectly clear." Followed by a slurpy sound. Were they making out in the hallway? I listened more closely. Before I knew it, footsteps from above were approaching me on the stairway. A light breeze wafted over me, and I looked up. She passed me on the stairs, the girl who'd left the apartment that I was about to enter. She didn't seem to see me as she floated down the stairs with a blissful, dreamy smile. Considering her reddened cheeks and tousled hair, I could imagine what she'd just been up to. Oh, man. Frowning, I climbed the last few steps. Mr. White was nowhere to be seen. I walked down the corridor and looked to either side. On my left, a door stood open a crack. That had to be it. I pushed the door in and hesitated at the threshold. The hallway was neat, and I could see a few jackets hanging on the wall. Various sneakers, a few work boots, and hiking boots were lined up in a tidy row. Appreciatively, I raised my eyebrows. The shoe collection revealed eclectic interests. I took the plunge, crossing the threshold, and entered the narrow hallway. "Sorry, dude," a muted voice bellowed from the room that opened directly into the hallway. "I've been trying forever to get her out of here without looking like an ass, but some people can't take a hint." Wow, he sounded like a winner. The voice got louder. "I know this apartment showing was planned last minute, but glad it still worked out." I heard his footsteps as he approached. "If you've got a girl, too, that's fine, at least as long as—" Mr. White appeared in the doorway, and it wasn't only his mouth that dropped open. I gasped, too. The first thing I noticed was his torso, his naked, taut belly rippling with muscles, then his tattoos. I tilted my head and looked at the designs inked onto his tanned skin. Holy Mother of God. He cleared his throat and shook me out of my trance. "What the hell are you doing here?" I stared at him open-mouthed. He wasn't much older than I was, maybe a year or two. He had warm, caramel-colored eyes, stubbly cheeks, and brown hair that was longer on the top and shorter on the sides. Finally, my voice came back. "We had an appointment. I'm here to see the apartment. We emailed." My words gushed out too fast. Mr. White cocked his head and glared at me. "A. Harper," he muttered, and then something seemed to click in his head. "Why the hell didn't you sign your email with your first name? I assumed you were a guy." I didn't feel like explaining to him that I was still getting used to my new identity, hence just the initial. He let his eyes wander over my entire body for a second time. His features darkened, and he shook his head slowly. "No." No? I was about to retort when he repeated, "No." What do you mean, no? I folded my arms in front of my chest. I can pull up the email on my phone if you need proof. It must have been a misunderstanding. You're definitely not moving in here, he said and turned away. Then he disappeared into who knows where. All I knew was that I hadn't even seen the damned apartment. "Let yourself out," he called back over his shoulder. My mouth dropped open again. The guy had actually left me standing alone in the hallway without even giving me a chance. Not even one word of my prepared speech. The last 48 hours had been filled with so much crap, but this? This pushed me over the edge. I blew a fuse and stomped after Mr. White. "Hey!" I yelled, marching into what looked like a well-lit, cozy living room. The jerk stopped mid-stride and turned to face me, his eyebrows knit in anger as I shouted, "You can't just throw me out without even showing me the place!" Something like shock flashed through his warm brown eyes. It didn't fit with his cold aura. See if I can't. Now he crossed his arms. "Well, you can't. We emailed, damn it. You invited me to check out the apartment, so I should at least be able to see the room and have the chance to convince you that I'd be a good roommate." I tried not to snarl. "Like I said, there's been a misunderstanding. I thought you were a dude, but you're definitely not." He gave me another dismissive once-over. "I'm looking for a male roommate, not a female." He practically spat out the word. By now, my rage was about to boil over. The other apartment viewings had been bad, but this one took the cake. "Do you have any idea what I've been through the last 2 days?" I spat, and my pulse skyrocketed. In one place, a guy was sitting in his kitchen in his underwear, and asked me my bra size. In 3 apartments, I was told that sexual favors were part of the rent. In another, I was told I'd have to be the nanny. And twice, I could barely keep my potential roommates from going at it right in front of me. By now, I was almost yelling, but it didn't occur to me to lower my voice. The avalanche was flowing full force at this point. I saw rooms with walls covered in black mold. I was in apartments so crammed with trash that you couldn't even see the floor. Sometimes I couldn't even tell if I was standing on a carpet or a pile of flattened pizza boxes. I was in apartments that smelled so much like pot that I could have gotten high just from breathing the air. I took another step toward him and drew back my shoulders. Things have gotten off to a shitty start for me in Woods Hill, dude, so don't tell me to just disappear. I want to see the damned room. The mistrust on his face had faded into general indifference, as if I were using up his precious time. "And this is exactly why I don't want a woman in here," he said calmly. "I don't need the endless whining and girly emotional stuff." Now adrenaline propelled me with such force that my shoulders shook. Maybe it hadn't been a good idea to dump my problems on this guy, but sometimes I just couldn't stop until I got it all out. "Are you done, or do I have to take any more of this? If the answer is yes, then I'd like to dress for the occasion," he continued in a flat voice. His indifference only spurred me on. "Fine," I hissed, turning my back. Walking out, I could hear a phone ringing. The ringtone was a song by the group Fall Out Boy. Wow, the jerk actually had good taste in music. Tears burned in my eyes as I faced the door. I didn't want to go back to Lincoln, back to a life that was so fake and scripted. My entire personality had been a facade that my mother had manipulated according to her wishes. I'd only realized it about 3 years ago when I learned just how far she was willing to go. That day, my trust in her was shattered into 1,000 pieces. I'd thought my mom would always protect me, but instead, she'd just heaped more and more lies on me until I could barely stand under their weight. After that, nothing was ever the same. I swallowed hard and tried to banish the negative thoughts. By now, my hands were shaking with frustration. I overheard the jerk's muffled voice as he chatted with someone on the phone. A few seconds later, he cursed loudly. Again, I heard his naked feet flapping on the floor as he came to the hallway.